part of it was I was a yoga instructor, and part of it was that hubris of thinking like I can fix anything with yoga, you know,
Right.
until this knee thing. And that's why I was so like, what do you mean a knee replacement? No. So, but also I was lost at that point of really not being able to walk much and being in so much more pain all the time of not knowing what to do.
So I am joined with Kristin, who is a member of the support group and the Arthritis Adventure Blueprint, and she had been dealing with bone-on-bone knee arthritis. And so we are going to talk about her journey today, the ups, the downs, where she started, and then now where she's at and where she's going, to kind of inspire you that if you are in her position now or in her position when she started, I want you to feel motivated and empowered to start your own journey. So first, Kristin, if you could just kind of give us where you started, maybe what you've been told by doctors and things, and then we'll just start there and share your journey.
Okay. It started when I was 42 and I was having knee pain, and I had attempted to do a marathon training, but my knee was hurting. I kind of ignored it. I was, youngish. And so I finally went to the doctor after actually a few years of just having knee achiness. And it wasn't going away. So he took an x-ray and said, you have like stage 5 arthritis. You will someday need a knee replacement. It's not yet. But you will need that. And I thought, oh my God, I was in denial. I was like, what do you mean knee arthritis? Like from a sports injury? It's like, nope, just plain arthritis. And I still didn't really believe him, and I thought, well, I did this because I ignored my knee pain when I was training for this marathon. And even though my father had both knees replaced and said, do not train for a marathon, that's why I have both knees replaced.
Oh no.
But again, denial. So I just I did an injection thing. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a new thing at the time. I think it's more common now.
Okay.
Like 4 weeks of shots. They were so painful, and it didn't really, I noticed a difference, but not a big enough difference. And honestly, my knee pain wasn't hindering my activity. So I just kind of let it go. And then anyway, 8 years later, I went back for an x-ray because it was just increasing. And he said, you're ready. For insurance purposes and per this x-ray, you could have the surgery tomorrow. You need a full knee replacement. You have no cartilage. I'm surprised that you're even you've waited this long or whatever. He wasn't mean about it, just very matter of fact. There was no alternative offered whatsoever. In fact, I asked, can I do physical therapy? And he said, you can, but I don't think there's anything that'll help it. So, and I took the physical therapy option. The physical therapist was super nice, but looked at my x-ray and literally shrugged his shoulders like, there's really nothing we can do. I also had a shoulder injury. He said, so let's work on your shoulder injury.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Completely dismissed.
Discouraging.
Yeah. And again, he was totally fine. I mean, I believed okay, I guess I'm going to put this surgery off as long as possible because I am not ready at 50 now to have that kind of recovery or, I just moved to Utah and it was snowy and I was enjoying all that. And I'm like, there's no way I'm recovering here by myself for 12 weeks or whatever it is.
Right.
So anyway, I saw your thing on TikTok and here we are.
Well, perfect. So we'll talk about kind of that journey in a minute, but kind of going through this journey because it had been a while. I mean, it had been a few years at least that you were dealing with this. Were you still able to be active? Did you have to kind of modify or even give things up, or were you still able to do active things that you wanted to?
I was able to do everything, except at the time I stopped running completely this happening. And honestly, it was never my thing. I really love hard workouts and I loved that, but it was just I never loved running. I love spinning and I love yoga and I love Pilates, so that didn't really, it sort of affected spinning as long as I knew how to modify, and then at the time, 8 years ago, he said, you can still do spinning, but don't stand up. And I kind of ignored that. I stood up as long as I wasn't increasing my pain.
Yeah.
So it didn't, my activity level wasn't affected by my knee until this last winter. So when I slipped and fell and just everything got worse, and and then I rested for 3 months and made it completely worse. And then I found you.
Right. And that's kind of one of the common things is that, I mean, you just kind of feel like, everything kind of happens at once. And it kind of, from your kind of beginning story where you hadn't really had any diagnosis or anything, and then you go in and it's like, oh, you're all of a sudden at end stage arthritis.
Right.
And I can imagine that plays an emotional toll as well, because it's like, what? You went from, just having pain to, okay, you need surgery tomorrow. Right. And I can imagine that can be psychologically as well, like, oh my goodness, and can lead you down a path of avoiding things. And I mean, how did you feel after that kind of initially happened?
The first one when I was 42, or when I was, I don't know. I sort of ignored it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't ignore it in that I was crazy about, I wasn't reckless, but I kind of was like, no, I'll fix it. You know what I mean? Because that has been my path of, I have never had anything wrong. So I've been very lucky. Any aches and pains I had, like I pulled my hamstring in my early 30s, like it just like snapped one day, and it was super painful, but I got over it. You know what I mean? Like, and part of it was, I was a yoga instructor, and part of it was that hubris of thinking like, I can fix anything with yoga, until this knee thing. And that's why I was so like, what do you mean a knee replacement? No. So, but also I was lost at that point of really not being able to walk much and being in so much more pain all the time, of not knowing what to do, and thinking like, okay, this summer, which would have been this last summer, I guess I'll have a knee replacement. But again, found you and switched.
Right. So let's kind of delve into now kind of where you're at. And so we initially met, and then we were in a support group with other people that had bone-on-bone knee arthritis, and then going through the signature program, the Arthritis Adventure Blueprint. So I know that you kind of had a breakthrough in the beginning, just with kind of a realization. So if you want to kind of talk about that, and this was before we even did any sort of exercise or anything, to see the power of confidence. So tell us a little bit about that, kind of what happened in the beginning that you were maybe a little bit surprised about, or a little bit just
I was shocked when I signed up for it. I kind of was like, I don't know what this will be, but I have nothing to lose, literally. If it's stupid, I'll just not do it or whatever. Also, it's like COVID and there's nothing else to do. So I was like, I have nothing to lose, whatever. And also I had your videos, the little ones that you'd posted, and I was kind of doing them and going, oh, so I didn't think that you were like an idiot or anything. But the most shocking, I thought it was going to be like immediately a kind of a what exercises to do, and it wasn't, because you made us like wait 2 weeks ish to even get to that point. So I think the shocking thing for me was, like I push a lot of things aside, especially like anything like mental, and when you mentioned the filling up your cup, and when it's full that you feel more pain, that was a totally new concept to me. And one of the things that you had mentioned in your video was fear. And all of a sudden, like a Mack truck, it hit me like, I'm having so much fear about being disabled for the rest of my life, of being someone that's a senior citizen who has to ride around a scooter, and, and my life is forever changed. I will never be able to do the things I did to keep me sane and healthy. And I didn't realize how much fear that was happening months and months after I was feeling the knee pain. And that immediately like changed everything.
Yeah. And do you think that you were like avoiding certain things, or maybe hesitant about certain things because of that fear?
Yeah. I mean, because I was at a loss of what I was doing with my knee, I had stopped, I bought a spin bike and immediately like stopped using it. Like it was a lot of money, and I love spinning. And because I bought it during COVID, and then I slipped and was like, oh, I shouldn't do this, because I don't want to make this work. I didn't know what to do. It was just one of those weird things where, you know, I was in physical therapy, except they were saying like, there's nothing you can do. And then I have this new bike that I'm dying to ride, but I'm afraid to ride it because I don't want to make this worse. And I'm just at a point where I no longer have that ego or whatever you want to call it, to think that I can make this go away, or what to do in order to make it so I can ride that bike again, you know?
Right, right. And so that fear can really play into a lot of people. I mean, especially if you hear like bone on bone, but then you're also hearing from other people that, you know, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, that can be very discouraging. And then that fear just kind of fuels that discouragement. And then, you know, it's just like, well, I might as well just go get the surgery because, you know, there's nothing else that can be done. I mean, society can be so discouraging to us.
And friends were weighing in. You're like, oh, my husband had a knee replacement and his doctor said he waited too long and it made it worse. And you know, everyone comes at you with their advice, and which all well-meaning and I'm sure true for them. But then you don't know where to go from there, because it's just all mixed.
Right.
You know?
Right. You hear good things, you hear bad things, you hear nightmares, you hear, you know, people that are doing amazing.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a grab bag of things that can go wrong with a knee replacement or can go well. So then we kind of got through the exercise portion and we started kind of moving and things. So kind of give us some insight of kind of your journey with exercise, kind of how you felt through it and just kind of what you've been able to accomplish since then.
Okay. So it was hard for me. Like, I normally approach exercise with all or nothing. Like I would either do it, like I said, training for a marathon or taking spin classes every day or whatever. You know, there's a high I would get from it, like that adrenaline. And with yoga, I did power yoga and blah, blah, blah. So doing anything that was slower or like seemed baby to me or seemed old lady to me, you know, was not it was unacceptable in my brain.
Right.
So starting like even on level 1, I remember you saying you do these a few times. I was like, I won't need to, you know, but after doing like 1 and 2, I think I might've done them back to back. I was so sore and they seemed so easy in the moment that I remember being like, oh, well, we'll see what this, and you know, the next day I was sore everywhere and was like, oh my God. So it was shocking to me how, not that it was easy to do, but how effective it was for something that was so accessible for me. Like I could do everything and it seemed easy. And I remember being like, oh, I'll breeze through this. But then I was super sore and like, oh, I'm really getting something out of it. And so then I just continued on and I didn't skip any levels, even though my brain was like, oh, I'm sure that I
go to the hardest ones.
Right. Totally. Because I'm like, oh, you know, I've been in fitness for 20 years, you know, I know what, I'm sure I've done everything she said. I had done almost, I think 80% of the things that you did, I'd never done. So that was, but I also saw how other exercise regimes took from that, you know what I mean? So it was really interesting and it was humbling, and like also it immediately gave me so much hope, you know? So.
And that's honestly, I mean, the most powerful part about it. I mean, there are lots of different exercises and things you can do, but the fact that you can actually accomplish something, not have to modify, you know, zillion things and actually feel like the muscle soreness and feel like it's actually doing something.
Right.
Because a lot of times when you're in pain, and I don't know if you've noticed this at all, but we kind of, people tend to kind of fall into a routine of, you know, just doing kind of the same thing all the time because you know it's safe or you know it's, you know, good for you. And so when you start moving in different ways, it's like you're using muscles that you haven't used in at that extent in a while. And so that can lead to some of that muscle soreness and things like that.
Right. And also most workout stuff, like I was doing bar online and they're geared for a full-fledged person that can do all of that. And I would never have voluntarily taken something that was geared for someone who couldn't do stuff because I didn't want to accept that. Right. So to take those videos one at a time was like, oh my God, like not only can I do them, but they're not these baby things I thought. And they're totally helping me, because after doing like, I think after number 3, I started noticing a difference in like I think I'd mentioned, like in sleeping and driving and just sitting. It was like almost gone, all the pain I had. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night every night, and sometimes not even wake up, but like not even be able to sleep because the shooting pain was there and I couldn't get it to go away. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, I only took ibuprofen, but still, it wasn't helping. And I started noticing it immediately. So I was also kind of shocked at how fast something that I found on the internet was working, you know? I've actually never seen something like that work like in that way. And part of me was like, oh, maybe it's just temporary. It was not. I have not had that pain yet since. So.
And that's awesome, because I mean, that pain can be just frustrating in general. Like you're not even doing anything and you have pain.
Right. And you're like losing sleep and, you know, all that stuff.
Right, which impacts everything else. And
yes.
And I know that you had mentioned pain medication. So has that changed at all kind of throughout this?
Completely.
Okay.
Yeah. I started like, so I had been prescribed by my first doctor of 600 milligrams of ibuprofen 3 or 4 every 6 hours, basically. So 3 or 4 times a day. I never did that. I've not ever been a pill taker, not even really supplements, or, you know, I've only taken Tylenol or something like that if I had a headache or whatever. So I started, but I needed the 3. I needed 1 in the morning. I mean, literally I took it for the second I woke up. I usually wake up and walk my dogs, and I couldn't even walk the dogs without taking it. So I had to wake up a half hour early, take that ibuprofen on an empty stomach, which caused other problems. And then, you know, and then I tried to do it 3 times a day. So midday, morning, and right before I went to bed. So I took the 3, and then after I started the exercise, or actually right when I started I went down to 2 just to see. And then I started the exercise and went down to 1. And then I didn't refill the prescription, and I bought regular ibuprofen, the 200 milligram. And I only take it now. Maybe it's been really cold, so I've taken it like maybe every 3 days. I'm not counting. I literally only take it if I'm already having pain, because I know I don't need a preemptive anymore, you know?
Right. Which can be very freeing as well, to not feel like you're relying on like an external source for pain relief, whether it be medications or something else. But yeah, that's awesome. And I know a lot of people are kind of in that boat of feeling like they're relying on something, but would love the freedom to, you know, be able to get on without it. And so I know this has not been all like butterflies and rainbows for you either. No. And so, so maybe kind of give some insight of, you know, maybe what's been the hardest thing kind of through this process, and then maybe where you want to go or continuing to work towards now.
The hardest thing, just after I finished the 10 exercise modules, I kind of like then didn't do anything. I think just my brain, you know, I have ADD, and like also I just need things to be new and exciting 24/7. And so, you know, it wasn't quite, I don't know, I wasn't motivated to go back. And then at the same time, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just stopped doing anything for pretty much 2 weeks. And then, but my pain was starting to come back, and I realized like, oh my God, like this is not something I can do anymore. I've been like that in my life where, like I said, I either exercise a ton or nothing. So I was like, I can't have this pattern of nothingness, because now it's not just a matter of being lazy. It's going to affect my not hopefully having knee surgery right now. Right. And also just my, you know, having that pain makes me irritable and everything else. So after we had that last phone conversation with the group, I went back to everything, and you emailed me the new kind of things to do, which I did every day, and the squats, and I went back to my bike. And one of the craziest things, which I haven't talked about yet, sorry, is I have pretty much stopped walking my dogs. I've been taking them to the park because it was in too much pain. And so on last Sunday, I just wanted to walk them. It was a gorgeous day. And I thought, you know what? I wanted to test this out. And it was totally empty. And so I decided to walk in one of your modules, and I can't remember which one. You do this thing where you walk sideways, but then one foot's up and one's back, and then you kind of cross.
Oh yeah, like a karaoke type thing.
Yes. So I did that on our walk, and I literally had zero pain. It wasn't a long walk. It was my same, like half a block, but that half a block at the end of it, I was severely limping every time before. And I could not believe that walking sideways, which I normally wouldn't do if it had been busy, I would have felt stupid. Right. But now I'm like, well, screw that. I don't care. So walking sideways, or whatever that's called, not only was I kind of sore from it, but it completely zero pain. And I was like, I cannot believe this. I know she says this, but I cannot believe that this makes, like, I'm going to walk sideways in Costco from now on, Exactly. People are going to think I'm an idiot, but like, whatever. I don't care.
That's so awesome, because I know that walking was very limiting for you. Still kind of through some of this, walking was hard. But now, I mean, if you can add in some variety to it and make it so you're not stressing that same part over and over again, I think that is really powerful.
Yeah.
And I think
and I was like, oh my God. So I yesterday walked sideways too, mostly until cars would pass. But again, like the pain wasn't there. And I just couldn't believe it. I thought the pain was coming from just standing. Like, I didn't realize, that was such a huge difference. So I'm continually, like, every day I still learn something new, and then when I get out of the stubbornness of actually doing it, then I realize how beneficial it is. So even though I'm glad I actually did that nothing for 2 weeks, because it really showed me that this wasn't some sort of fluke, and that doing those things, and my goal-ish now is just to do more every day of those things that are actually healing me versus thinking that they were just kind of a Band-Aid fix.
Yes. And that's important too. Because I mean, with dealing with arthritis, you come into contact with so many things that are just this Band-Aid of short-term relief, and then it comes back.
Right.
Short-term relief, and then it comes back.
Right.
And so finding something that's longer term that you actually have some power over, I can imagine feel pretty good, that you can feel that you can control some of it, that it's not totally out of your control. So that's awesome. And this is coming from, hearing, one, you have bone-on-bone arthritis, and then two, that you're ready for surgery tomorrow. And that now, you at least have some control over it and have some kind of power over the direction that you're going, instead of just kind of succumbing to it.
Right.
Which is awesome. And I know it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of commitment, and it's not easy, but the reward, is amazing.
No, it totally is. I'm actually excited for next summer, because I feel like if I just continue to do this all winter and am more proactive about it and not taking 2 weeks off, but even with those 2 weeks, I started to feel more pain, but it was never what it was before.
Which is
so it wasn't like it just completely came back. It just, I noticed it going, oh, okay, I can't do that.
Right. Which is promising too, though. Like, say, for example, if you're traveling or something, and you're not constantly worried about that pain coming back, even when you're not in that constant routine. Right. So what kind of, if somebody was in your shoes, whether you were initially diagnosed or kind of those couple years later, and they're sitting in those kind of shoes right now, what would be one or two things that you would tell them as far as getting going, or what they should do? Oh
my God. I would say that every exercise movement is everything. And, the right movement. At one point you were like, stop just doing spinning and have a variety. And I remember being like, oh God, okay. But again, you were right. And so that was another thing, because I think we get into the things that we love and they give us that high. And then things that don't give us a high, it's harder to want to do it or to think you should do it, and that all exercise is not created equal, you know, and that, but really, if I could talk to me at 42, I wish I had had this info. You know, I was never given at either doctor, and they're completely separate doctors in separate states. You know, the first one was an expert in blah, blah, blah in LA. And then this was just a normal, you know, never, ever, ever did they say, you should start now a system. And I had been to knee people before that. My knee started hurting when I was like 32, a little bit, you know what I mean? And, but at 32, I was like, it's just,
it'll go away.
Yeah. I overdid it this time, and I'm an overdoer, like I said, or I thought I overstretched it because I'm really flexible and I did yoga. So like, I was like, I'm probably hyper extending my knee and blah, blah, blah. So I also thought I would say to myself from then years ago, you didn't do anything to do this. It's not your fault.
Right.
And I would say, you know, I wish I had been told that movement is the answer to this. And at the very least, it's a solid solution. It's not a shot. It's not, you know, a surgery. It's not whatever. Because if I'd known that, if the end result was still surgery, that's okay for me. But to never be told that from 32 to 50,
right,
it's kind of insane.
Multiple people too. Yeah.
Multiple people, and all who I'm sure are competent in their own way. I don't know. Like, I don't understand why. I trust doctors. I'm not an anti-doctor person. So, you know, it's mind blowing to me that no one said, in fact, even going to actual physical therapy live and in person, that they literally like, oh yeah, your knee's gone, you know?
Right. And
like, keep moving. Like if someone had just said, keep moving and move in a variety of ways. And here's this puzzle, and you know, it's going to take you whatever for the rest of your life, do this. I would have done it.
Right.
And if I hadn't done it, I certainly would have planted the seed to do it eventually.
Right. Or at least start a little bit here and there,
right,
and continue to kind of work your way up. Yeah.
Right.
And so, and now that it's being diagnosed at these younger and younger ages, I have people that are 30 that are coming to me like, I have this, what do I do? And so it's kind of a double-edged sword, like you're being diagnosed earlier, but now there are a lot of options and education and things moving forward. But you took action and you are on the right path to being able to do the things that you want to do, or at least feel like you're in control and you actually have some power over this. Right. I think is awesome.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me. And we have our upcoming combined support group and exercise class that's coming.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Very excited. Yes. So we'll see you in there. Okay. And then just want to say thanks, and thanks for sharing your story, and hopefully it inspires a few people out there with bone on bone arthritis.
Yes, I hope it spreads everywhere, because I'm beyond grateful. And also I feel like I stumbled on this weird lottery that I won, you know, that like, how is this not everywhere? You know,
so, I'm working on it.
I know. And I will spread the word a bit. Like I always feel like some kind of charlatan, like I'm in an MLM, but you know what I mean? Because it's like, how do I convince people that this is what you do when we're in a culture of take a pill or get a surgery, you know?
Or be very,
and I'm not anti those things at all. It's just that like, how is this not another option or the first option? Anyway, so very grateful.
And I mean, like you said, those things aren't necessarily bad. And especially when dealing with some of that increased pain and things, shaving off some of that pain can help you kind of get into some of these other things. So yes, absolutely. I totally agree. Okay. Thanks. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.